This is an interview with Ms. Emily Thomas Ellis for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project. I'm Dr. Horace Huntley. We're at Miles College, July 12th, 1995. Welcome, Ms. Ellis.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out and sitting with us today to talk to us about your experiences in the civil rights movement. I want to start just by asking some general kinds of questions about the background. Tell me a little about your parents. Were your parents from Birmingham?
Yes, both were from Birmingham. My mother was a housewife, and my father was a steelworker at Fairfield Steel in Fairfield.
I see. Tell me a little about their education. How much schooling did they have?
My mother finished high school, and my father was a high school dropout. Okay. But he still worked at U.S. Steel to support the family.
Did she go to Parker?
Yes, she did. During the time when she went, it was industrial high school, and I think it was in 1942 or something like that when she finished Parker.
Did he also go to Parker?
No, he didn't get into further than elementary school.
I see. Okay. And he was a steel worker. He worked at U.S. Steel.
He retired from U.S. Steel.
Right. And your mother was
just a housewife.
Yes. She worked at home. Okay. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers.
Okay. Where do you fit into that?
I'm the second.
You're the second oldest.
I'm the second oldest.
Okay. Where did you start first grade?
I started first grade in Rising at Princeton Elementary School. The principal was Mr. Wesley, Claude Wesley, during the time when I was there.
So did you go at Princeton from first through 6th grade?
Yes, during that time, Princeton started at the 5th grade, so when I left the 5th grade, I went to Hill School.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. Parnell C. Jones was the principal there.
Oh, I see. What do you remember about Hill School?
The teachers were nice, very strict, but concerned and dedicated.
Were you living in Rising?
Yes, I was living in Rising during that time.
So Rising is probably 3 or 4 miles from Hill. How did you get from Rising to Hill?
We used to walk, or either we would commute, carpool.
I see. You mean you walked that distance?
Yes.
So kids today don't want to walk to the grocery
we did.
store.
We did. Either we carpooled.
And you went from Hill then to Parker?
Yes.
Okay, and you graduated from Parker High School?
Yes, in January 1965.
Were you active in any of the activities at Parker?
During that time, I was very shy. I wasn't active. I really wasn't a very good student until the 10th grade. I was shy. And when I got into the 10th grade, I met Loretta Allen, and she inspired me to be myself and have confidence in myself.
Right.
And still today, she's my mentor. I still call her now.
What was her name?
Loretta Allen. She's at the board now.
Okay, Loretta Allen.
Yes,
Okay, so that's your mentor.
Yes, she'll always be my mentor.
Oh, great. Parker is obviously known worldwide.
Yes, it was.
And I know that you're very proud of Parker.
Yes.
How did you characterize Parker? What was it like to be a student at Parker High in the 1960s?
Well, during that time, Parker High School was the school. I was proud to be a student there. And we didn't have as many, we didn't have fights there, gangs, or anything like that. Most everybody was just, friends and things like that. We didn't, we had... And during school hours, we had auditorium periods, and we had very, very nice programs. And the principal, of course, Big Red, everybody that knew him, R.C. Johnson, that's Big Red. He was a very strict principal. And so
Was Big Red a nickname that
yes,
students gave him?
Yes, we gave him the
So
name
you
of Big
didn't- you
Red.
didn't call him that
no,
in front of his
Oh, no,
class.
you didn't call him that. And then during that time, even though Parker High School was so crowded, he knew every student at Parker High School
By name.
by name. Yes, he could call you by name.
So you were basically, you knew that you were known.
Yes.
So that in fact was a deterrent against getting into any trouble.
Yes.
So,
And then not only that, like you say, he, during that time, the teachers really, kept you in line. They were really a tremendous role model.
what did you do after high school?
After high school, I went to Daniel Payne College for 2 years. And I went there and I dropped out. I got married. I had a child. And I worked for Head Start for 23 years. And after leaving Head Start for 23 years, I got on with the board in August 1992.
And that was as a result of your completing the degree.
Yeah, with Miles College in May 1992.
And now you are, what are you doing now? What kind of work?
Okay, presently I'm a second grade teacher at Price Elementary School.
So you like to deal with the younger ones, huh?
I love it.
It's all right.
Yes, I like it very much.
Oh, great. During your high school days, this was during sort of the height of the movement between
Yes, it
61
was.
and 65.
Yes.
What do you remember about those days, let's just say prior to the big demonstrations of 63? Do you remember the Freedom Riders coming into Birmingham?
Oh, yes, I remember them very well. One morning when I got to school, I was getting off the bus, and I think the gates were locked. And I was saying, well, why are the gates locked? And there were all of these men standing outside, and they were saying, don't try to go inside the gate. And then and he told us, he said, just march in single file, and we're going to 16th Street Baptist Church.
Okay, this is actually in 63 then, when
Yes.
the demonstrations were going on. Okay.
Yes, it was.
So you went to school,
Yes.
and that morning I assume you walked to school, you
Yes.
arrived there,
Yes.
and you found that the gates were locked, and you could not get in the classroom?
Well, I think what had happened, they had been told it was going to be something like a turnout or mass.
So the gates were locked to keep the
Yeah, keep the
children
children-
inside.
Mhm. Okay, the ones who were already in there, they had to stay in.
Okay.
Because I don't know who told them, but I think, they were warned that we're going to walk out.
Okay. So you were one of those students that never made it in.
In the gate. No, I
Well,
didn't.
how many students were outside the gate?
Over 500 or 600.
Is that right? So you had.
You couldn't hardly see the sidewalk.
So what happened?
Okay, there were about 4 or 5 men outside, and they told us, don't go inside.
Do you remember who those men were?
If I'm not mistaken, maybe Hosea Williams. I saw Hosea Williams, and during that time, I think Andrew Young, Tommy Wren. I think, but I'm not sure. It's been so long.
And were they talking to the students?
Yes, they said, march in single file, and you all follow us. We're going down to 16th Street Baptist Church.
So you were marching in single file
File.
from Parker High School to 16th Street.
Yes,
Now Parker's on what?
on 8th Avenue North.
8th Avenue and what
And
street is that? 12th or
3rd Street.
3rd
Yeah,
Street?
because it's back then the address was 300 8th Avenue North.
So you're marching from 3rd Street to 16th Street.
Yes.
And you have 500, so that's a pretty
It was
big group.
yes, and we did, we did stop for the traffic lights. It took us a long time to get there, but we still arrived there safely without any thing happening.
Okay, and then what happened once you arrived at 16th Street?
I was so shocked because I had never seen Dr. Martin Luther King before, and he was in the pulpit, and he introduced himself, and he told us why we were there. He told us that they were going to use us for the marches, and he said that we were tired of being pushed around, tired of riding at the back of the bus, tired of not being able to eat at the lunch counters, tired of being going in the restroom and there's a white sign and a black sign, tired of drinking out of the water fountain that says colored only, and then most of the time it was out of order. So that means we didn't have anywhere to get in the water when we were in town.
So how was he received? And you saying that were nearly, you would estimate 500 students coming from Parker.
More.
Were there students from other schools as well?
Okay, I really don't know. I can only just speak for the ones from Parker, but I know it was just packed. I mean, it was just packed.
The church was
yes,
packed?
Yes, and they learned us, they taught us freedom songs. I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I woke up this morning with my mind set on freedom. And we learned those songs.
Well, this was of course during the day.
Yes.
But did you attend the mass meetings on a regular basis?
Yes, I did.
Did you do that prior to this particular time, or did you start attending them after?
Well, I had I had attended several ones before at New Pilgrim Baptist Church.
And what were the mass meetings like? How would you describe a mass meeting?
Very spiritual and rewarding.
How was it rewarding?
They had the gospel choir. They had formed a gospel choir that sang freedom songs. It was just, just so moving and spiritual, and it just really hit you and put that drive in you that you wanted more, that you want to be more, that you weren't going to let anybody stop you from reaching your goal. Those spiritual and those gospel songs and prayer was just so rewarding.
Well, did this meeting that you attended, the meetings that you attended, the mass meetings that you attended, were they similar to what happened that day that you left Parker and came to 16th Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much the same. They were just introducing us to different people and then telling us why we were going to do this.
Did you actually march that particular day?
No, I didn't march. I think it was about 2 days later before I marched. Matter of fact, I think I marched 3 days before I was arrested. The first day when I marched, my hair was so pretty. I had a hair full of pretty curls. I mean, and we marched, and the policeman put the dogs on us. They had the hose pipe on us, and the water was so forceful from the hose pipe until it just split my arm open. I mean, it just laid open.
Were you taken to the hospital?
No, I really didn't make a big, deal out of it. But my arm was badly bruised, and
So was it bruised or was it?
It was open. It was open
It was.
and bleeding. Yes. And so I did not get arrested that day, but
were you doing this with the approval of your parents?
no, she thought I was in school. My mother, my parents thought that I was in school. They didn't ever know what I was doing.
But when you came home with your arm open,
Yes, I really didn't explain to her. Matter of fact, I really didn't let her see it. I really didn't let her see it, but later on, after a couple of days, it was kind of stiff, and I was telling her, and she said, well, what happened? And I don't know what I told her.
But you didn't tell
but
her
it
that
wasn't
you were
related to the marching at all. No.
Okay.
No, because she would.
So was that the first day of the march that you were attacked?
No, I didn't get attacked that bad the first day. I think it was more so like the second or the third day.
Okay. And then were you leaving home every morning?
Like I was going to school.
Like you're going to school, but you would go to 16th Street?
Yes.
Every morning?
Every morning.
And were there other students with you that were doing the same thing? Would you go to school and then leave there and come to 16th Street, or would you go directly from home to 16th Street?
No, we would meet up at school. Mm-hmm. And then one day when we got to school, we walked out.
Okay. Tell me about that. How did you were in, and how did you get out?
Well, of course, the gates were open, and so we decided that we just going to go into school that morning. And we went in and stayed about a half hour. After we had been in there, somebody said, "Hey, it's time to go." So I don't know if they had already, was outside waiting for us to wait, and they said, "Hey, it's time to go." And so when they said it was time to go, all the students just stood up, they slammed their books down, and they walked out.
All of the students?
In that class, and some more classes too. And then it was somebody again waiting on us outside, and they took us back down to 16th Street Church.
Okay. Then tell me about the day that you were arrested. Tell me, how did the day start?
Okay, well, I left home like I was going to school, and my friends and I, we went to the church, and we were singing songs, and they were preaching to us nonviolent. You aren't supposed to be violent. Don't hit back. That was all they ever said. Hey, this is a nonviolent movement. And so they lined us up, and we started to march, and we got down to New Barracks, and we walked in. There were police already in the street. And so when we walked in, it was so many of us, we sat down to the counter, and they refused to serve us, and they asked us to get up. And we would not get up. And they started pulling us up from the seats. And as they pulled us up from the seats, we just got on our knees, and we started praying.
Before you left, you walked from the school to the church.
Yes.
And then in the church, what happened?
Okay, when we got to the church, they was telling us where we were supposed to go for that day and what to do. They said, we're going down to New Barracks, and we're going to be served at that counter, or we're going to jail.
Okay, so was that the entire church, or were there designated places for different people?
Well, I think during this particular day, if I'm not mistaken, I think everybody went to New Barracks. Yes, I think we were all designated that day for New Barracks.
Okay, and then you went in, you sat at the counter.
And then there were whites sitting there, and when we sat down, they jumped up like that. And then when we told that we wanted something to eat, they refused to serve us. And then so they told us to move, and we would move, and the policemen started pulling on us. And as they pulled on me, I just went down on my knees, and I did my hands like this, and I started praying. And as I said, there were so many of us, and they would put us in. They would put them in. Paddy wagons and everything, and it was so many of us until I was able to get on a big bus. I don't remember what kind of bus it was. I went to jail on the bus.
Did they force you to get off your knees, or did they have to carry you out to the...
They were trying to carry us.
Okay, so they carried you from...
Pulling and carrying.
And you were then put on the bus.
Yes.
Taken, where were you taken?
Okay, the Birmingham jail was so full until we went to the fairground.
Okay. And how long were you there? How long were you in jail?
I think for 2 days.
For 2 days?
Yes.
Well, what was it like in jail? What was the experience like?
Well, we didn't really consider ourselves as being in jail. What we considered as being in jail was being alive all these years, and we were couldn't eat here and couldn't sit there. So I think to us it wasn't as bad.
What were What was the food like?
Well, the food was nice, sandwiches, catered food and like that. But we didn't eat. We didn't eat. We would sing and pray all night, and we didn't sleep.
Why? What were you doing?
We didn't want to sleep.
You say you were singing and praying?
Praying all night. We wanted to get our point over that we were tired. Tired of being without, and tired of being able not to be able to ride the bus, and tired of drinking out of a water fountain that said colored.
Mm-hmm. Well, what did you do for those 2 days? Did you do anything other than just sing and pray? You say you didn't eat. Did you do any work? Did they work you?
We didn't do anything. It was so crowded.
Oh, it's just how many people were you?
Oh, it was so crowded. It was just I don't know, maybe about 400 or 500.
Did you have beds?
Yeah, they had some like little cots and things, but we didn't sleep. We just stood and we got on our knees and we prayed a lot.
Mm-hmm. So you, in effect, you basically kept them very busy.
Yes, that was our reason for saying that we weren't going to sleep. We were going to keep them busy.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you remember about your release from jail?
Well, I remember when they bailed us out. It was an experience not ever, going before a judge before. But it wasn't that traumatic because, like I said, the most traumatic part was being in bondage all those years.
Mm-hmm. What did your mother have to say? When did your mother first find out that you were in jail?
When I called her.
And what was her reaction?
She had a fit. She said, "I thought you were in school." And I said, "I hadn't been in school in about a week." And I told her, I said, "But not to worry." I said, "They're going to get us out." And I think she called, I don't know who she called. I think she called somebody, and they told her that they were going to bail everybody out. Mm-hmm. And so she didn't have that to do. Mm-hmm. But when I was released and I went home, and she told me, she said that, "I thought you were in school." I said, "Well, Mother," I said, "I hadn't been in school in about a week." I said, "Well, I'm marching for something that I believe in." She didn't give me any static. She just told me that she would support me in my beliefs, and because I think by her being a housewife, and she wanted more for her kids anyway, and you just really have to stand strong, and and just really do what you believe in.
What did your father say about your participation?
He had a fit. He he just took his hand when I got home. He just took his hand. He said, "And you're what? And you haven't been in school in a week?" And I said, "Well, let me explain to you." And I went on to explain to him, and he kind of calmed down. And later on, he told me that he understood. And he asked me, and he said, "Now, how is this going to affect you in school?" I said, "I don't know right now." I said, "I don't know." And I said, "And I'm not really concerned about school right now."
Were you suspended from school?
Yes, I was.
For how long?
Well, I think about 3 or 4 days.
Did your parents have to take you back to school?
Yes, they had to take me back. But let me see. If I'm not mistaken, I think that there was an order handed down that everybody that had been suspended from school had to go back. Okay, the board had to let them back.
Right, yes.
They did us like that.
So how were you received when you went back to school by your teachers?
Fine.
Did they encourage you at all to get involved? Did they suggest that you should not get involved? Or what was their posture at the time?
Well, I'm trying to think. My homeroom teacher didn't really say that much, but they were concerned. And I guess back then you just really had to not, get so involved yourself or give out any advice. But we were young, and we were, we just wanted to do it.
After you were released from jail the first time, did you demonstrate again?
I sure did. I sure did. I went back again.
Did you leave school again?
Yes, I did.
Did your parents know that you had left school again?
No.
But you were not arrested
No,
a
I
second
wasn't.
time? Okay.
And back during that time, they used to call you home when you were out. But I think during this time, they had so many out, doing the marching.
So no one ever called your home?
No. And then, too, they might have called, but no one was there during that time.
Then after this first encounter, and then you demonstrated again, were you were not arrested, but
No.
were you attacked? Were you ever attacked by?
Still with the water and the dogs and the clubs.
Were you
Hit.
personally physically attacked?
Hit. I mean, they would hit you. I mean, like,
Who are they now?
the policemen, they would tell you to move. When you didn't move, they'd hit you, for you to move. I'm not going to say it was a violent blow, hard enough to send me to the hospital, but I mean, you could, feel it.
Where were you hit?
Like on the arms, maybe the arms and the legs or something like that.
Did you ever encounter just average white citizens that attacked anything during the demonstrations, or was it always just police and firemen?
It was always the policemen and the firemen that really, did everything to us. Well, to me.
Yeah. What about the dogs? What was your reaction when the dogs were turned loose?
I had said I was sad because we're supposed to be human beings, and and for them to say dogs to human beings, I was very upset about that. Knowing that we meant so little to them, as human beings, to put animals on us.
Were there other members of your family involved?
No, I was the only one.
So your parents really were not involved. Did they attend the mass meetings?
No, they didn't attend the meetings, and they weren't involved.
So you were the only one out of your family that was actively involved?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and what were the reactions of your brothers and sisters?
They were shocked because they thought I was in school. And then I was always a quiet one, and they said, I know she hasn't been cut in school like that, but I was, and they were very shocked. I mean, they were disturbed.
Well, they were disturbed.
Yes.
What did they say to you? Did they?
Well, they were younger, and they hadn't had the experience that I had going to Woolworth or going to Newberry's or riding the bus. I got on the bus one day. There were no seats, and there were plenty seats up to the front. And I moved the where it said white, but I moved it up some so I could, have a seat, and the bus driver stopped the bus.
And what did he do?
And he told me that I had to go to the back, and I said, well, there are no seats in the back. And he said, but you'll have to stand up. And another time I rode the bus, I sat down, and this lady jumped up, and she rang the bell, and she got off.
Was this a white woman?
Yes, she got off. And usually when we got on the bus and there were seats, and if we attempted to sit down, they would call the police on us. That was for the marching had started.
After the boards were removed and you rode the bus, did you go to the rear of the bus? Or did you
Yes,
sit
I
up
did, but it wasn't a good atmosphere. 9 times out of 10, they would turn like this or do something like that, look out the window, are you there? You like hold the head down. Then,
So you would sit in the front with white people then?
Yes.
Rather than going to the back of the
yes,
bus?
I'm not going to sit in the back anymore. I was determined.
So are there other experiences that reminded you and helped you to determine that there was a need for a change that you may have encountered while either riding the bus or downtown?
Yes, while being downtown, even while shopping, even if you were the first one in line, the salesperson was going to wait on that white person first. And when I was small, I didn't understand that. And as I got older, I kept going to town. And I said, well, I was first, and they looked like you didn't say anything, like back then it was if you was white, you were right, and you were always first.
What church were you a member of at the time?
During that time, I was a member of the Rising Star Baptist Church in Rising.
Was your church actively involved? Was your minister and other members of your church involved in that?
No, my minister wasn't really active involved. Matter of fact, I think he really was kind of hesitant about, he was an older minister, and I really think that he was really hesitant about, becoming involved because of maybe what might would have happened to him or something, or the church or something like that.
Were there close friends of yours that were involved with you?
Yes, I have several friends. I have one friend that's deceased now. We marched all together and we went to jail together. Her name was Loretta Demas. And I remember Josephine, I'm sometimes what is her last name? She integrated West End High School. It was Josephine Powell. She's dead now also.
Did you ever consider being one of the first black students to go into one of the white high schools?
No, I didn't ever think about that because to me, that would have been more pressure because my girlfriend, the one that went, she was a straight A student at Parker High School, and when she went to West End High School, she made all D's, and she was very smart.
Oh. Did she graduate from West End?
Oh, yes, she did. But she wasn't an honor student anymore, but she still, finished.
What did she do afterwards?
Well, she left here and went out to Chicago. She married, and then she went to Chicago.
Obviously, those were turbulent times.
Yes.
And in your experiences, now at that time you were living in Roosevelt City, is
Yes.
that right?
Well, when I first started marching, I was living in Rising, and then we moved to Roosevelt City.
Okay, and from Roosevelt City, you, of course, had to take the bus
Yes.
to school. Tell me about the experiences that you may have had.
Well, Roosevelt City wasn't that bad because it was a predominantly all-black, community, and you didn't see too many whites in that area. And maybe the few in that community had cars or whatever, but usually when I rode to the Roosevelt City bus, I didn't, see too many whites, but we would always go to the front.
So you rode the public
Bus
from
Roosevelt City.
Roosevelt to Parker?
Yes.
Okay, did you have to transfer? You go downtown?
Oh, we would transfer down, yes, downtown.
This particular time, in 1965, 64, of course, there are a number of things that are taking place. 63, well, let's start with 63.
Yes.
The bombing of 16th Street Baptist Church took place. Do you remember that?
Yes, I heard that bombing during the time. I think I was on Fountain Heights, and we were getting ready to go to church. I was getting ready to go to New Pilgrim Church. And we heard this loud noise, and looked like our whole community just shook. And I said, well, wonder what is it? And so about 15 minutes later, we saw on the screen, 16th Street Baptist Church was bombed. And so we got in our cars, and we could only just go so far. It was the most horrible sight I had ever seen. The destruction of the church, and we stayed there until they brought the bodies out of those 4 little girls. It was horrible.
That was an experience that I'm sure you'll never forget.
Yes, I'll never forget that. by them being so young and, yet so innocent and trying to serve the Lord. You couldn't even go to church and be at peace.
Did you know any of the children that were?
Well, I knew the fathers. I knew Claude Wesley was a principal of the school that I attended, and Mr. Martin was a principal of a school I attended, and Mr. Martin never got over, his child's death. I mean, he didn't live too much longer after that.
What was the atmosphere like?
Everybody was mad. They just wanted to go out and just do anything, whatever it took to get revenge. They were really mad. I mean, they were mad. Matter of fact, I think I remember hearing some people say there was a lot of violence that went on that night after the bombing.
After the bombing, actually prior to the bombing, there was the March on Washington. Mm-hmm. And then there was the bombing in September. The March on Washington, August, the bombing in September. 1964, we had the passing of the Civil Rights Bill.
Yes.
And many said it was resulted from what took place in Birmingham.
Yes.
And this was a bill based upon public accommodations. What do you remember? Do you remember anything really changing during that time?
Well, during that time, I saw more blacks hired at the banks. I saw more blacks hired in the stores. Usually when you went in the store, the only way you would see anyone black, they would have been pushing a mob either behind the soda fountain, serving food or something like that. But as I went in the stores, I saw black cashiers of the banks, black cashiers. I saw quite a bit of changes made. But what really disturbed me was when our people got these positions, the way that they changed, So.
How do you mean they changed?
They're not, well, I won't say all of them, they weren't courteous. They were very short with you, very impatient.
Did you know any of the people that actually got positions in those stores downtown? And if so, were they active members in the movement?
Matter of fact, I'm thinking all the ones that I really saw, I don't think they benefited from it, but they didn't march, no. No, I don't remember any of those, really being active at all.
So those who were not active seemingly benefited?
Yes, more than we did.
Okay. If you had the opportunity, you had the wherewithal to be able to change anything that you went through at that time, what would you change?
What would I change?
Yes.
That was in the 60s.
Yes. The way that the movement was administered.
Well, I think it was very well planned, very organized. As far as structure-wise, I wouldn't change anything because I think that nonviolent was the best way. And prayer, the marching and the praying, I think that was the best way because you can be loud and ignorant. That will not get anybody's attention, when you really want something. But if you do it in a way, and you do it in the right way, I think, you get what you want. And just be firm about it and march and, keep marching and keep praying.
If you were a parent in 1963, would you have allowed your child or children to participate?
I was so protective of my daughter when she was born in 1967. I would probably say no. You know why? Because as a parent, you always want to protect your child. And the least little amount of, thing that would probably happen to you would get, like so upset. So what I went through, I wouldn't want my child to go through it. No, I'm glad I was there to help, pave the way. And my daughter, I think she reaped from some of the benefits because she went to Sanford. She didn't, she went to school over there, and that was in the 80s. And during the 80s, she told me, she said that it wasn't like she, thought it was going to be. She thought this was going to be real prejudice and all of that, and she said it wasn't that bad. So I'm thinking that by marching, that I did help her some and others also.
Have you made the attempt to pass this information on about your experiences in the demonstrations to your daughter?
Yes, we used to sit down and talk about it, and she said, well, Mama, he went to Billy Club. She said they put you in jail, and she said, and your arm was open. I said, yes. I said, I never get it. She said, oh, I couldn't have gone through all that. She said, that's so terrible. She said it's so hard to believe that Birmingham was like that. And she said it's hard to believe that Birmingham was like that, considering the way that, we are now. We can go anywhere. She said, oh, I wouldn't have ever thought it.
Finally, is there we've talked about any number of topics, number of subjects. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that we may not have talked about as extensively as you would like? If so, this is your opportunity.
No, I think the only thing I would add, like H.G. Gasson was very fundamental during this time. He was the man who had the money. And of course, he was the one who would always bail everyone out of jail. And I think we should always, recognize him, during the civil rights movement. And that's about it. I think basically all of this will never leave me. I will always remember all these experiences. And then when you've gone through all of this, it really makes you a much better person. It makes you appreciate what you have now and what you didn't have.
Is there any way to pass that on to the next generation? That appreciative feeling that you have about how you have succeeded and had an impact upon changing the system for the better?
Yes, I think what I would say to anybody, and as I talk about it sometimes, I always tell them that violence is not the way. Prayer, and if we start marching again, I think that would help too. But I also think if we could stick together as a race and stop trying to down the other person, I think we would do much better.
Mrs. Ellis, I want to thank you for coming today, and we certainly do appreciate it.
Okay, I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Sweet in the morning. Oh.